everyone. So I am working from Kant's Perpetual Peace and Other Essays. So this is what I'm teaching in class for Intro to Philosophy this week. So I thought I would go over some of my thoughts on his essay about universal history. It's entitled Idea for a Universal History with a Cosmopolitan Intent. So basically, he argues for the idea that there is a guiding thread throughout history that we can see in the evolution of the species and also in the evolution of the state, that is heading toward kind of this perfect, reasonable, I'm not going to say utopia, but I guess like level of reality that fulfills completely the function of the human being. So he says that, there are a few, like, I feel like he has like these historical people that really move this kind of linear, natural law along in terms of like progress that's somewhat linear, even if it goes like in waves. Which is something, the wave is something that one of my students mentioned. So shout out to Jordan, because I thought that was pretty cool. And what was I saying? Sorry, I got distracted. So yeah, so he wants everyone to, going back to his essay on what is enlightenment, he wants everyone to think for themselves. But he says that it takes a lot of courage. And, I think you really also have to have some other elements to fulfill Kant's idea of thinking for yourself, because he brings up this idea in that essay, What is Enlightenment, of being a scholar. So, if you're thinking for yourself, that means that in your private life, which can be very confusing, he means the institutional life, like on your job as a priest, a government official, a professor, etc., even a citizen of the state paying taxes, you are obeying and you are fulfilling the position that you chose and that you decided to be in. And he said, one, because that keeps, everything kind of orderly. And two, if you chose your profession, there must be some truth in it. You must believe it a little bit, right? And if you don't, if you really, really are 100% against it, then you shouldn't be in that position, such as like if a priest isn't agreeing or in alignment with like the church doctrines. And so, how many people can really prove their maturity and their enlightened state if Kant really just makes space for people who kind of like write and publish their critiques? I mean, maybe that's unfair to Kant, and maybe he's just giving a scholar as an example. And I realized that I haven't gone over what is enlightenment on my channel. I really thought I did. Maybe it was kind of couched in maybe a video about how to write a philosophical essay. I'm not sure, but I would really like to go over that as well in depth. But this one is so interesting because honestly, it reminds me of Hegel's idea. Well, Kant is saying, I wish that there were someone who could take a philosophical view of history and look at the past, look at the patterns, look at where it seems like, the species is going and civilization is going in terms of like continually incrementally improving, and where we have had like our victories and what has blocked us from really progressing. And let's apply that so we can be super efficient, kind of like looking at history and the evolution of the species as a machine that you can apply a formula to. So, I mean, he's getting this from he's assuming that there can be something like a universal or a natural law with a guiding thread within history, the movement of history, like human history, because of Newton and the scientific revolution. If there are patterns and laws that direct the celestial planets, like beings and entities, then there should be, if we can look at like the laws of gravity, etc., there should be laws that we can apply to human beings and human history. If not an individual, then the collective. And he really says that even though in What is Enlightenment he focuses on the individual's courage and maturity, he says in this essay that a human being has a limited lifespan, right? Like we can live however many years, and evolve and grow and figure things out and discover and be innovative and create. But in the end, like we can only go so far. We can't ever, and no one can ever reach their full potential because they just don't live long enough. And so really it depends on the species, and people, individuals passing down their knowledge, or groups of people or cultures or nations or generations passing down their knowledge to the future so that future generations can, stand upon the, I don't know, shoulders of their ancestors. I don't know what that cliche phrases, but yeah, so that's basically what it is. And I just still think it's so interesting because he said, who can do this? Who can take a philosophical, and I think he means like kind of scientific viewpoint of history and make a statement on this is how we're evolving. And Hegel was like, I'll do it. So that's what the Hegel's whole thing is, right? Like Hegel looks at, he makes an analogy actually between like the entire species and the individual. I don't know if Kant really does that, but he doesn't, but you can infer that from what he says. I think like you can be inspired to think about that. So Hegel he takes like this path that an individual follows through their development. Like as a child, we are more, what does he have first? Of subjective. We're more subjective. Everything is about ourselves. We see the world like only through our eyes, and then we grow up into maturity and we become more objective and we notice the external world and how we're different from it. And then when we grow even more intellectually, emotionally, etc., we find a way to synthesize the subject and the object, and find a way to, I guess, not see ourselves as so separate and maybe so powerless and helpless, but we're not completely like egoistic either, only understanding the world from our perspective as if that was the only perspective, right? So I think that's so interesting that Hegel answered Kant's call. I don't know if Hegel like mentions this particular essay, but I don't know. If he read this essay, then maybe he got the idea from Kant. Okay, so this was written in 1784, and he divides the essay up. I would say that it's like his most accessible, but relative to Kant's writing, it's very accessible. It's not as accessible as What is Enlightenment. It's a little more difficult if you have students in Intro to Philosophy for them to read this, but they can still read it. So because it's organized really well, it's divided up into his thesis statements, and he states his thesis and then he discusses it. And yeah, so I'll read the thesis statements and then I will read some of the quotes. And I'm also making lunch, but it's on low, so it should be fine. I might have to pause. Okay, so the first thesis is all of a creature's natural capacities are destined to develop completely and in conformity with their end. So in in the teleological theory of nature, an organ that is not intended to be used, an organization that does not achieve its end, is a contradiction. So nature, he says that nature doesn't really care about our well-being or our happiness, but it cares about us developing in the way and aligning with our true function, which that reminds me of, I guess Aristotle said that he was trying to figure out the function of a human being, like the function of a hammer is, whatever. Um, and he said it's to, use your reason. I don't think Kant is far from that. So he's going to show later on that all of a creature's natural capacities are destined to develop completely, but they are not really going to be able to, just because of our short lifespan, basically. The second thesis, in man as the sole rational creature on earth, very Aristotelian, those natural capacities directed toward the use of his reason are to be completely developed only in the species, not in the individual. So he gets right there. So nature has an end, and you can argue with that for sure. like, does it? He's just really kind of drawing, I think, from the scientific community, and trying to apply it to everything. So, or at least this. So he says right here that you can see this not by looking through a person's life, because it's going to stop too soon, but through the entire history. And of course, we don't know what will happen in the future, but we can kind of predict, kind of like a scientist can hypothesize, an outcome and then test it. The third thesis is nature has willed that man entirely by himself produce everything that goes beyond the mechanical organization of his animal existence and partake in no other happiness or perfection than what he himself, independently of instinct, can secure through his own reason. There's the valued priority of reason. Nature does nothing unnecessary. So this is actually a little further than the thesis, and is not prodigal in the use of means to her ends. So she's not wasteful. She doesn't waste anything. There's no excess, pleasures or whatever it is. She doesn't hold your hand or help you. Human beings, like our bodies, take care of a lot for us unthinkingly, but then we really have to then show up for the rest, right? To think about like how to solve problems, etc. Since she gave man reason and the freedom of will based on it, this is a clear indication of her objective as regards his makeup. Specifically, and this is one of the lines I underlined, he should not be led by instinct, nor be provided for and instructed by ready-made knowledge. Instead, he should produce everything from himself. So this really ties into what is enlightenment, right? He should not be instructed by ready-made knowledge. You should create your own knowledge. You should think for yourself. You shouldn't just adopt ideas of the church or the government, state blindly. And I think the point of, going beyond your animal existence, not being led by instinct, that's really drawing away from maybe like emotional whim and really applying reason to our decisions and everything that we are doing and saying. And then at the end, I thought it was interesting, while the species is immortal, each member of it dies. So I'll just read the whole sentence. But no matter how puzzling this is, it is nonetheless equally as necessary once one assumes that one species of animal should have reason, and that as a class of rational beings, each member of which dies, while the species is immortal, it is destined to develop its capacities to perfection. So why would you be given because we can assume that we can always be more of what we are, right? We are thinking about human beings, and I am not in the agreement of there's a hierarchy of beings. I think there's a lot to say about the intelligence of like my orchid. My orchid, well, it, part of it, one little petal is maybe dying, and that's my fault. But if you at least give it the right water, if it were outside, it would have the right water. But it will sustain itself, and it's beautiful. And I mean, I didn't create this, right? So nature is very intelligent. Our pets are very intelligent. The animals that exist that are not domesticated, that are out in the world, are very intelligent. So I'm not in agreement of all. I think there's lots of problems, which lots of people have talked about and mentioned concerning kind of, I guess, humanism, basically like putting human beings on a pedestal. Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, so if human beings, we can see that human beings are relatively intelligent or intelligent enough, right? There are lots of people, I mean, people figured out how to create everything that's around me and around you, like houses and building houses. How did we figure out how to build a very secure residence where people can live not only on the first floor, but the second floor? We've discovered vaccines, and which kind of is a dirty word, I guess. I don't know. Just like in general, vaccines, right? And different medicines, and I mean, just the roads and cars, and just think of all the like amazing, beautiful things. Like, it's really impressive that we as a species, individually, not really me, I did other things. I've done other things, I guess, but we've kind of created this world that we see to, serve us. We've created it to a great extent. Obviously, we didn't create everything. I have a message. What is that message? Okay. All right. I'll read that later. I was just thinking like spirituality, like we are all the creators of the universe because we're all like Brahman. I lectured on Hinduism. Um, but anyway, so like what could we do if human beings lived 1,000 years longer? Like if all of these people creating all of these great things, even like the scholars, writing books and trying to figure out life, if we lived for so much longer, what could we do? I think we all even think that as individuals. If I were living 1,000 years, what would I spend my time on? Well, I would definitely get another PhD. I think, I mean, I haven't really learned any second language, so I can't say I would learn lots of languages. I need to like really learn one. Actually, it's not my natural language. But I would hope that I could eventually really be fluent in a second language and then add on others. We wouldn't be so rushed to have different experiences, because there would be time, right? But that is not the way it is. But we can assume, probably along with Kant, that we could continue to improve so much more if we had so many more, like, prime healthy years. So the fourth thesis, actually, I'm going to check on my lunch and then be right back. Hello. Okay, I'm back. I ate lunch, and now it's like 3, almost 30. So I'm staying home from campus today just because I don't have to teach, and thought I would take the day off. So that's why I can make a video. Let's continue. I am on the fourth thesis. The means that nature uses to bring about the development of all of man's capacity is, and this is really interesting, like a necessary evil, the antagonism among them in society. As far as in the end, this antagonism is the cause of law-governed order in society. And I'm going to go on. That was a thesis. But in this context, I understand antagonism to mean men's unsocial sociability, i.e., their tendency to enter into society, combined, however, with a thoroughgoing resistance that constantly threatens to sunder the society. This capacity for social existence is clearly embedded in human nature. Man has a propensity for living in society. Ooh, sorry. Just thinking about class and my students. I'm underlining it again because I want to make sure that I read this in class because this is so good. Okay, where did I stop? Man has a propensity for living in society, for in that state he feels himself to be more than man, i.e., feels himself to be more than the development of his natural capacities. He also has, however, a great tendency to isolate himself, for he finds in himself the unsociable characteristic of wanting everything to go according to his desires, and he therefore anticipates resistance everywhere, just as he knows about himself that, for his part, he tends to resist others. Now, this resistance awakens all of man's powers, brings him to overcome his tendency towards laziness, which Kant hates, and driven by his desire for honor, power, or property to secure status among his fellows, whom he neither suffers nor withdraws from. In this way, the first true steps from barbarism to culture, in which the unique social worth of man consists, now occur. All man's talents are gradually developed, his taste is cultured, and through progressive enlightenment, he begins to establish a way of thinking that can in time transform the crude natural capacity for moral discrimination into definite practical principles and thus transform a pathologically enforced society or agreement into a society, and finally into a moral whole. So into a society and then in a moral whole. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's so many lines to underline. So I think it's really quite compelling, and it almost reminds me of Ayn Rand in terms of her looking at what's not usually looked at as a virtue. So this is basically, what was his specific word? Antagonism as a virtue. And also, this was published after, I believe, Adam Smith's, both of Adam Smith's works. So this essay was published in 1784. Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations was published in 1776, and his Theory of Moral Sentiments in 1759. So I see, like, he is actually also going to talk about like trade and economics and international relations in this essay as well. Kant is, and it just feels very Adam Smith. So I think it's so interesting because we're talking about how to like move society forward, move civilization forward, move the species forward. And I don't know, I guess I think of like Adam Smith and his, what's he call it? He has a really, like, the factory, hold on, I'm gonna see. My Adam Smith books are at my campus, but I remembered it. Division of labor. So, yeah, I mean, even Plato had his principle of specialization. You know, what keeps society running like a machine? I mean, because this is also after Francis Bacon, who kind of came up with the idea of like looking at nature as something you could put in the lab and examine, and like he uses words like probe nature and like some other just strange ideas that's kind of just like looking at it as a like a lab specimen that has no mystery. There's nothing sacred in that. There's no mystery in it. We can figure it all out. Wow, the fourth thesis is like, I think, really compelling and good. I have to talk about that. Okay, without those characteristics of unsociability, which are in themselves quite unworthy of being loved, and from which arises the resistance that every man must necessarily encounter in pursuing his self-seeking pretensions, man would live as an Arcadian shepherd in perfect concord, contentment, and mutual love, and all talents would lie eternally dormant in their seed. So sometimes we need, I guess, a little bad to progress if that is the goal. You know, we're driving and driving and driving toward a particular end. And we can all see how that, you know, turned out. Like, I remember when I was reading Adam Smith, and he's like, it'll be so great, the division of labor. Like, it's not just one person making like an artistic pen, we can make 1,000 pens if someone just like works on, you know, and I think like, I keep forgetting like what it is actually. Is it a writing pen? I don't think it's a writing pen, but whatever, it like still works. Someone can like do the ink, and someone can create the outline, and someone can create the little like handle and the clicky thing. I don't know technical words. You know, like everyone does it. But like how, and Adam Smith understood. He said, this is going to be really depressing and monotonous. It's going to dull down the minds. It's going to dull the minds of those who are in the factory. So he like knew it, and he was like, we'll just like have government like activities for these people after they get out of their mundane, tedious, like brain dulling jobs, and we'll give them like a festival or something, like a petting zoo. Like, I'm like, okay, I mean, maybe if you that through like to that extent, maybe you should just like maybe not publish your book. But you know, all the economists are just like, no, what are you saying? I'm saying let's be responsible for the ideas that we put out into the world. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. I don't think that the drive, I mean, I don't think we can say, oh, well, you know, sometimes we have an atomic bomb, but sometimes we have a cure for, you know, polio. I'm just like, those are, you can choose to advance one and not the other, you know? I mean, there is a choice that you can make. There's a progress. It's not just like, oh, wait, poof, something like, I don't know. I just think that you have to take the middle way. You can't be too extreme. And I see some of these philosophical works as planting seeds for what we have, future generations have just taken and run with. But I see that, and so maybe it's like, oh, well, it's not their fault. It is their fault because I see the intention. I mean, what Kant is trying to do is put, you know, the science behind how nature works and universal natural laws, and he's trying to put that into the species to make us evolve as quickly and efficiently as we can, so we can hurry up and achieve our human potential, which, I mean, how do you even know when you've achieved that? So I think that it seems, and this could be that, you know, I need to work on, you know, my own sort of assertiveness and confidence, and I definitely do. I definitely do. But I'm slightly triggered on how assured he is of what he is saying. Um, I don't know. I mean, I get, we were just reading about antagonism. Like, how did I get on I think his overall thesis, not just this, not this thesis, but his overall thesis is troubling and problematic. But we're reading Kant and I'm excited for understanding it. So silver lining, right? Okay, let's see. I guess you know what it was? It was, why are you, okay, I understand where the emotional reaction came from. It's like, why are you dissing the Arcadian shepherd? I would like to be the Arcadian shepherd in perfect contentment, concord, and mutual love. I mean, please, por favor, let all my talents lie eternally dormant in their seed. You know, like I enjoy that life. I would love a little bit of that, and I am taking Tuesday for myself so I can have that. I am today the Arcadian shepherd. Mostly. I do have a list of things that I need to do. Like finish chapter 3 in Latin, because I haven't studied it in a while. Okay. Men docile as the sheep they tend would hardly invest their existence with any worth greater than that of cattle. And as to the purpose behind man's creation, his rational nature, there would, I forgot that I was like not reading all of this word for word, but this thesis is actually very interesting. And as to the purpose behind man's creation, his rational nature, there would remain a void. Thus, thanks be to nature for the incompatibility, for the distasteful competitive vanity, for the insatiable desire to possess and also to rule. Thank nature. Without them, all of humanity's excellent natural capacities would have lain internally dormant. Man wills concord. We want it. But nature better knows what is good for the species. Or is that just Kant's opinion? She wills discord. Okay. Oh, sorry. My video, like, I don't know if that was recorded. It kind of like caught. Okay. I'm gonna have to like maybe rewatch that, or maybe I won't because I don't really care. He wills to live comfortably and pleasantly, but nature wills that he should be plunged from laziness and in active comfort. Maybe my tech glitched because Kant is like a deity now and he is mad. Into work and hardship, so that he will in turn seek by his own cleverness to pull himself up from them. The natural impulse to do this, the sources of unsociability and of thoroughgoing resistance that give rise to so much evil, but also drive men anew toward further exertions of their powers, consequently to diverse development of their natural capacities, indicates the design of a wise creator. Not the hand of a malicious spirit who fiddled with the creator's masterful arrangement or enviously spoiled it. Gnostics. Okay, this is amazing. I love to hate this, is what is happening. And so just like my world literature students loved to hate the poems of Catullus, whom they called thirsty, whiny, immature, and egoist. And one student called him an incel. So I don't know. I was very entertained. I was like, this is the best part of my week, reading my world, what is it? Did I say world religion? I meant world literature students discussion posts. They're reading, sorry, I'm underlining. They are so hilarious. I don't know if I have given them the card to be that witty and hilarious, but they have allowed themselves to do that. And like, thank you. Like, it's so funny and fun. Some of their titles just, it brings me so much joy. I'm so sorry when I have to give them a reading that's like maybe more wholesome. Like they're getting this week, they're getting the Ramayana, the Indian epic, and they're just reading like some of it. Obviously, it's too long for just a week of reading, but I'm like, this is more wholesome. I'm not sure you're gonna be as funny when it is. But they, oh my gosh, I love them so much. I love all my students in different classes for probably different reasons, like the group of students. Okay, fifth thesis. The greatest problem for the human species whose solution nature compels it to speak. What is up with my Zoom? This is so weird because it's like not like I'm on the internet, and maybe this isn't being recorded, but it's just so weird. Like what is happening? It's my energy. Okay. You might not know what I'm talking about. When I look up, it's all glitchy. I'm sorry, Kant. I'm sorry. Like, you are way more intelligent than I, and you've published all these books, and people are reading you still. So, I mean, don't be threatened by me. Don't be threatened by my criticisms. I just want to be an Arcadian shepherd. That's all. That's what I might title this video. Is to achieve a universal civil society administered in accord with the right. I don't know exactly what he is talking about here. What does he mean, a universal civil society? A universal civil society. I mean, I think I know what he means, but that just seems very forward thinking. Is Kant talking about like a one world government? I don't know. Please comment below and like let me know I'm crazy. Like that just seems, I mean, all right. I don't know. Maybe what he's talking about. Oh, what was that? Okay, that was it. That's my Poshmark receipt. I'm sending something. I like sell things on Poshmark. Just trying to defend that like I'm not spending money on that today. What is happening to this? Like after lunch, I am unhinged. What am I saying? What was I saying? Oh, okay. I think, but just like all kidding aside, I think what he means is basically a sort of universal civility across all nations so that we can have peaceful international relations. That's what I think that he means. Sort of like, I mean, it's on par with his categorical imperative, right? Let's only do an act and, align with virtues that we would ask of everybody and we would want everyone to do, right? Okay. So I did mark a couple of things. I'm not going to read all of it, but I marked down nature's highest objective. This is like in the middle of the sentence. Nature's highest objective, namely the highest attainable development of mankind's capabilities. So basically it's that there is an objective of nature, and it is that we develop mankind's capabilities to the highest level possible. That, again, sounds like it will not lead to a place that we want it to lead to. Thus must there be a society in which one will find the highest possible degree of freedom under external laws combined with irresistible power. What does that mean? I think the fifth thesis, I'm gonna have to ask my students what they think. I do not. The teacher doesn't understand, right? But sometimes when you get 25 people in a room reading the same thing, the whole, the brain power of the whole helps. Okay, so freedom. I mean, freedom in his What is Enlightenment, freedom is necessary for people to seek enlightenment and be, I guess, because, why? Because the scholars, people can't be, I guess, punished for questioning the institutions that affect them when they are off the job, basically. That is what Kant is saying. And Alain de Botton, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he pronounces Kant's name Kant, which threw me a bit, because he's British, and I thought British people pronounce everything correctly. I just don't know. So then now I'm like doubting myself. Is it not Kant? Like, I don't know, because I had my students read or watch one of his School of Life videos. So I'm really confused. Is he just trying to like troll us maybe? Like, I don't know. But I looked into the comments and no one said anything. So I am not the queen pronouncing anything, which is why I worry. Okay, so you need the highest possible degree of freedom. So I think that, we get that because everyone has to have freedom to like follow their own creative desires and, all of this selfish, I don't know, something selfish, something driven, what we're driven by, our desire for power, honor, property, like we have to be allowed that. Again, Adam Smith's invisible hand. Something else from Adam Smith. That is just the weirdest. I don't know if you can hear that, but I think it's a car, and it just sounds so bad when it's like turned on. But under laws combined with irresistible power. I don't know. And then I'll just go on, i.e. a perfectly rightful civil constitution. Maybe irresistible power is, what was the word that was translated into irresistible? Like, who is it irresistible to? It's power that the masses endorse and support, because and irresistible just seems like the wrong word for that, whatever it means. Whose attainment is the supreme task nature has set for the human species. For only, I'm going to underline this, for only by solving and completing it, I guess it is the Constitution, can nature fulfill her other objectives with our species? Nature of necessity compels men who are otherwise so deeply enamored with unrestricted freedom to enter into the state of coercion. And indeed, they are forced to do so by the greatest need of all, namely the one that men themselves bring about, for their propensities do not allow them to coexist for very long in wild freedom. It is just as with the trees in a forest, we need each other. See that? I mean, that's also Adam Smith. I mean, maybe that's just, I don't know what people are thinking, but and two people can think the same thing. Car. So worried about it. I don't know what causes that sound. Sounds like a fan or a vacuum or something. For in seeking to take the air and sunlight from the others, each obtains a beautiful straight shape, while those that grow in freedom and separate from one another branch out randomly and are stunted, bent, and twisted. I love that. I mean, I guess I don't know a lot about trees and nature, what they're doing, but maybe. Okay, I think I'm actually going to stop there because I don't think I'm equipped to do a close reading right now. I'm not sure. I think I have just like too much energy. Yeah, so. And there's quite a bit to go as well. So I think probably like theses, is that the plural? 6 through 9 should really be another video, which I hope to actually do today, but maybe not put out today. So I don't know. This is a fun essay. Actually, I'm liking it more and more each time I read it, I have to say. um, liking it in a way that meaning that, like, I enjoy the exchange. So, all right, I am going to stop this video and review it to see if the weird glitches that I saw are actually on it. Maybe try to edit those out. Then, yeah, but you are watching it right now, so I don't know what I ended up doing. Thank you so much for joining me in reading a little Kant or Kant. I don't know. I don't think it's Kant. Um, I'm gonna link that video so you know that I'm not crazy and you can watch it. It's also a good, I think it's like an introduction to him. And yeah, I might want to go through all of these essays. Let me know if you want me to. I think actually this is a really good place to start with Kant, instead of like Critique of Pure Reason or any of his other books. I think these are accessible. So feels like he's writing for the public. I'm the public, and I love that. Okay, I will see you all later. Bye. Thank you.